So I wanted to get on here and talk about a really interesting opportunity I had today. Um, I was out with our church. Our church goes and does outreach every Christmas season at the local farmers market, and I live about 5 minutes away from that right now. And so I was able to go out there and join them, and we spent a couple hours out there just distributing tracts with candy canes on them. And there were some really neat opportunities that we actually had, um, just interacting with different people. Um, I was able to. It was interesting. I was lined up actually, getting some food, kind of after I'd been distributing for a little while, and a person beside me started reading out loud one of the gospel tracts that we gave. And so literally he's kind of like teasing his wife a little bit with this. And so he's reading this thing kind of in an obnoxious, kind of loud way. And I'm just kind of standing there and I'm just listening to it. And so I finally was like, Lord, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to, interject and talk to this guy or what? And so I did. I ended up saying, hey, that message that you're reading right there has absolutely changed my life. And I said, I tend to believe someone who died and resurrected. I tend to believe the things that he said. And what you're reading right there is exactly what he taught us. He taught us that we're sinners, and I went into a short gospel presentation. And it was just neat, to be there, right there, and able to kind of help this guy along as he's, kind of in a funny way talking about this. And you could tell he was sort of under conviction. And it was just neat. It was just neat. It's neat to be in the middle of what God is doing. And I find that when I'm obedient, when I'm stepping out in faith, God opens up really neat opportunities. Another interesting opportunity I had was I was standing on the street corner with a couple other guys, and this guy comes up to us, and we say, "Hey, Merry Christmas! Here's a candy cane and a gospel message." And he says, "What are you guys teaching?" And I'm like, "Whoa, great! Here we go. There's someone here who's actually wanting to hear what we've got. He's basically just asking. He's asking for a gospel presentation." So I said, "Hey, man, I can give you the Reader's Digest version." And so I launched into a short gospel presentation. And before I got to the end, he interrupted me and really just challenged my premise that Jesus was the Son of God. And as I started talking to him a little bit more, it turned out that he had embraced some New Age theology, basically the idea that we're all kind of one and we're all part of this greater God. Everything is a part of God, and any attempt to reach out to God is good in His sight. And again, I didn't really ask him if he thought God was personal, or it's kind of an interesting conversation. And actually, interestingly, he had kind of a grasp on Christian theology, because at some point in his life he had been a professing Christian, or had been involved in some sort of Christian organization or nominal Christian organization. And so he kind of challenged my premise. He's like, "Well, I believe that everything is equal, and I don't like putting up barriers between the Muslims and the Jews and the Christians. I just think that everybody is equal." And so I challenged him. I said, there are certain things in the physical world, well, actually tons of things in the physical world, that are universally true. I said, for instance, you and I, we both believe in gravity. Gravity is a reality. It's a universal reality. It's true for everybody, no matter who they are. And I said, it's very similar in the spiritual realm. There is objective truth. And then I talked about Jesus, and I said Jesus made some claims about himself, and they were verifiable claims. Jesus said that he was the Messiah. He said that he was equal with God, and then he did some things that were things that only God could do: raising the dead, calming the wind and the waves, showing that he had power over all the elements, doing other miracles like that, which proves in an objective historical sort of sense that he is exactly who he claimed to be. And I said to him, I said, I could make some wild claims. I could tell you that I was the Messiah. I could tell you that I was some sort of messianic character. But there is no way in the world that I could actually do any of the things that Jesus did. You see, Jesus, not only did he claim that he was God, but he also showed that he was God. And I said, you have to, if you're going to talk about Jesus, then you have to talk to him or talk about him in a historical context. And I said, the best historical evidence that we have for what Jesus did and for what Jesus said and the things that he was involved with is the Gospels. There was several friends that basically wrote an account of what Jesus did. And, these things have been proven to be historically true. And so if you're going to make statements about Jesus, then you have to go back to the original sources, the original historical sources. You can't just say random stuff about him and, think that that's true. You have to read it in the context of Revelation, and you also have to read it in the context of what Jesus is saying at that moment. He talked about, the passage where Jesus says that we could do greater works. You'll do greater works. And, if you don't read that in context, that could literally mean anything, whatever. It could mean anything. And so I challenged him. I said, hey, you have to actually read what Jesus is saying in the context of what Jesus, in the context of where Jesus was saying it. What was going on? What was the point he was making? He walked away unconvinced. But I could tell that he was thinking about it. And I just want to say, to you as a fellow believer, I'm assuming I'm talking to fellow believers here, we do have a very, very strong case when it comes to Christianity. Sometimes it's very intimidating to talk to people who hold to different philosophies or different religions. But the reality is that if you understand what your faith is based on and you understand these other premises of these other religions, you can actually talk to these people in a friendly way, in a what would be the word? Without looking down, condescending, in a non-condescending way. You can speak to them in a non-condescending way and have a good conversation. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation with this guy. It was just neat. It was neat. I believe that people are open. They're open to conversation. They're searching. And God, if you are willing and open, will bring people across your path. And we all just need to be ready. We need to be ready to give an answer for the hope that lies within us, because it is genuine hope. Because again, as I've talked about earlier on this channel with my last video, the resurrection is real. It's real. It happened. And that means that what Jesus says and what Jesus proclaimed to us, the gospel, it's true. It's life-changing. It's awesome. And we have a great hope. And we live in a world that is in the midst of great darkness, and we can be lights, and we should be lights to this lost and dying world. So I just want to encourage you with that. God is on the move. He's still working. He's working right now in the cold Canadian North, reaching out to people as they are just kind of trying to make their way through this darkness. And I'm just so thankful that I have the privilege of being a part of that. So I hope this is an encouragement. Thanks for listening, and God bless.